You'll start off the shallow, wind up over your head. Get scared.
Culture of me.
It is a place where the truth should be carried.
The arts and music scene really shows what people are about.
Share what's going on here in York.
Makes you feel like a family.
Local art has a face that most people can relate to.
Our community up here that sticks together.
Art is art.
Great potential with great artists, poets, singers, writers, directors, filmmakers. It's fantastic.
Everyone has a story to tell.
That moment, you have to capture that moment and share it with the rest of the world.
Showing something that maybe is not been seen before.
Without art, what good is life?
I am art. I've been art ever since I was born.
It really adds a great deal to our community.
We don't really need art to exist, but you need art to live.
Culture in Maine is important, and I think playing out is important, and playing open mics and playing wherever you can play. It's all about us all checking in with each other.
I am, as always, your fearless host, Carla Christopher, and I am excited to bring you our first guest. Her name is Daina Savage, and she is one of the most beautiful and lyrical poets that I have gotten to encounter in my travels in this area. She's Lancaster's former poet laureate. She's also a yoga guru who you can see all over the Tri-County area with pop-up yoga. But her words, I think they speak for themselves. So please enjoy the poetry of Daina Savage.
The girl in the mud-colored raincoat steps around the reflections of puddles, becomes the movement of rain as it washes what was left behind. She gathers the useless things in her small hands, leaves, candy wrappers, the residue of the earth. There is no discrimination. She gathers what was. She allows a last linger, then releases into the river where it washes away. From the bridge, she watches the swell of water, the gathering force. She sees what is no longer needed. She looks upward, face full and open to the rain. It soaks her cheeks clean, untangles her hair. The iciness, like the song of the moon, whispering the secret she's been longing to hear, has always known. She shrugs out of the raincoat and sets it adrift, watching it float until it disappears out of sight. Now, shimmering in the crystals of rain, shivering into something new, she is radiant. She becomes a blessing. She shines through golden.
The amazing Daina Savage. So welcome to York from your cross-county travels.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I just love the sound of your voice. The first time I heard you perform, I was like, I just feel like I just zenned out and I was just transported to someplace beautiful on the wave of the Savage voice. Like, do you get a lot of people that say that to you? Come on, you can admit it.
It's nice. It's not something that I, well, because for so long I was a writer and not performing my work, so I didn't know that I had a voice worth listening to. If that makes any sense. So
why write but not perform?
There wasn't anywhere. Writing was a very solitary act for me, and there really wasn't any sort of venue I wasn't aware of when I was growing up. Sometime in college, once a year, an established poet would come and give a reading, but it wasn't sort of this for the people to come and
warm
read.
and nurturing, open environment.
Exactly. I think it really just started with these bookstore readings. So when I first started to think of myself as a poet, it wasn't an oral art form that I was exposed to.
Now, I've actually heard a lot of people discuss that as writers, that claiming the title of poet, saying, I'm not just somebody who, I write poetry in my room, or I might write a little bit, but actually being able to throw their shoulders back and put their chin up and say, yes, I'm a poet. Was there a point where you made that transition, where you had written enough, performed enough, whatever that was, that made you claim that
I think it's in the performance. I think it's the speaking it then allows you to claim. And this poem is called Unfinished Business. The ghost of you follows me everywhere today. The fern fronds of frost on the window pane, like the brush of your eyelashes lingering. It is your touch in the invisible spiderwebs along the narrow path, in the break of waves against the shore, tugging at my limbs as they recede and gather inward. The moss reveals the shape of your body, pressed into its pliant surface. I see where you have rested and resisted. You are the persistent glint of sunlight in the corner of my eye, the shadow just out of reach, the staccato of your step along the cobblestones, an echo behind me I strain to hear. The sway of the playground swings in familiar motion, the way you'd propel yourself heavenward, the frame creaking and sighing with each release. Your persuasive voice slips among the heather and lichens, a whisper of remembrance and longing tangled in the surface. You are the tawny cat that appears, silently snakes between my ankles and figure eights, creates the sign of eternity, and disappears. It really, for me, opens up and expands my work in being able to say it and hear it. My daughter actually makes fun of me because when I write, my mouth is moving because but I'm saying when I'm writing, no sound is coming, but I'm sort of saying it and feeling the way the words feel in my mouth because I want, just living on the page, I just want, and in my nonfiction, all of the writing that I do, I want to feel what it feels like for words to inhabit a body. And so having, and letting that sort of full-bodied expression come out. So having the opportunity to create a space that other people can have that sensation and let their work just blow wide open, that's what makes me excited.
So do you feel like it changes people in a certain way? Have you seen people really be physically just changed by being able to express like that?
And that's what's so fantastic, because we're in our 12th year, having seeing the evolution of some of the poets that when we select them, you can see that kind of spark and the beginning of it, and then taking them through the first spoken word festival, and then seeing what comes the next year and the next year, and watching that growth probably, I don't know, it energizes me so much. And it's, not that I get to take really any responsibility for it, but I'm just so proud and excited to see those poets grow.
Creating and holding that space and giving people that opportunity. I mean, the spoken word festival that you do, that's worthy of a whole special conversation because it's hugely significant. It's very theatrical, and I think sometimes even the idea of calling it the spoken word festival can be slightly misleading because people expect a very certain narrow type of poetry when they hear spoken word. And then when you go and you're like, it's really just, it's all performance poetry and theatrical poetry and poetry from people of all ages and races and genders. And there's movement. Some people use some props or some subtle costuming. And we have
storytelling as well, so it's sort of all words spoken.
It's just all different types of poets that are like, I'm going to create an actual physical manifestation of this page poem. I'm going to absolutely let it embody the stage. I'm going to let it take over my whole physical form. And it's a whole theatrical length production. It's like 2 hours of all these different voices doing this beautiful, wonderfully diverse poetry. And to be able to have that happening for 12 years, and the audiences are still coming, and a lot of the poets do come back and perform multiple years, but then there's always a couple new voices in there.
Every year, new voices.
You keep it fresh.
I like to. And I like having a range of young and old. I want the range of voices and experiences to also be there, so that every audience member, somebody's going to speak to them. Somebody is going to really, hit. They don't need to like everybody there, but I just want them to leave with somebody really touching their heart. So this next poem comes really from this beautiful moment of being able to witness 4 generations of my family members together, and it's called Generations. For your birthday, she gives you Marushka dolls, fitting together the way we must have fit. You inside me inside her, and she inside her mother. Our features so close to one another. The blue eyes that startle, the blonde curls that darken with age, and the fine long fingers that come as adeptly to the ivory of a keyboard as to the task of fitting concrete to stone. And I see, as we 4 gather around the card table, alternating go fish with canasta, that unlike Marushka dolls, we change sizes. Until finally, you, little one, will hold what's left of our opened shells in your large, large heart. Really all I care about is that people are writing and speaking it, that they feel empowered enough or brave enough to, dip their toe in and speak it. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to hear all those voices, and hearing that diversity of voices makes me, that the table is open for everybody, just makes me so happy.
Now, let's talk about, because you found a whole brand new way that you had not done before of sharing your words and making them accessible to anyone that wants them, which is you just put out a brand new book called Traces. So what was the impetus after all these years of writing to decide the time has come to make my mark for posterity and I'm putting this book out?
So the poetry is the writing that speaks closest to me, but professionally, every job that I do involves writing, and most of those jobs come with a little bit of a paycheck, unlike the poetry. So I'm often writing to deadlines for all of my clients, whoever I'm writing for. I wrote for a daily paper for a decade, and so writing for deadlines is a really good motivator. So for me, if there's a spoken word festival and there's a date, there's a deadline.
Okay, gotta get that.
If there's, you should put a book together someday, that is not a deadline. Fortunately, in Lancaster, we have this amazing press, Irish G Press, and an amazing publisher, Lee Hinton, and he must know me well enough to know is that if he gave me a deadline, I would have to live up to it. So the reason the book finally happened
is because Lee
said, there's going to be reading on this date, and we need to have your book ready for that.
Nice.
So exactly. So it's good to have friends who know you and know how to motivate you as well.
So if you had to describe how you selected the pieces to go in this book, and what was the message, the story that you were trying to get across in this collection, what was the story that you decided you wanted to tell?
So when I design a spoken word festival, I look at all the poems that I've fallen in love with, and then try to see how those poems might talk to each other. So we spread them all out on the floor, the co-director and I, and kind of say, this seems thematically to go here, or I love how this image is carried over here, so that when you come to a show and you see all these people and you wonder why the lineup is happening, there's been this thoughtfulness to being able to kind of create an arc of the show. So that's a really great skill to have, I think, when you're putting together a book. So in putting together the book, there was a spreading out of poems that I liked enough to share them with other people. And then there was just looking at how they might speak to each other. So it's in 3 sections. And so one section might be more about kind of family dynamics and relationships, and another section might be more about how we encounter the world, and another section is just really probably just my love song to the natural world and it as inspiration.
I love that. And you can tell just from your work and even from the little slips of vocabulary that you use that idea of connection and that idea of, being one with the outside world, with the people that are around you, is a really strong theme for you. That's part of the yoga thing?
Actually, no. That is the blessed good fortune that I grew up probably more rural than anybody in your listening area actually even lives. My closest neighbors were a mile away. I lived on a lake in the woods surrounded by farmland. And for this final poem that I'll leave you with, it's called Nature Calls. All kinds of people leave their houses at odd hours, gathering stones, fallen leaves, the husks of corn, seed pods. This is how it begins. The geese pass in clamorous V's, feathering northward, each winged exhale imploring our hearts to follow the arrow path they reveal. Every green thing gives up its dance with the sun, retreating in a fiery swirl of saffron and vermilion before dissolving to dust. The things of fur crave darkness, crave the pulse of the earth. What was once exuberance gathers inward, breathes the hymn of sleep. It is a time to rest. It is time to release what we've held onto, the talismans of bone and claw and root. We inhale the coming cold, draw the northern lights into our lungs, filling them with veils of remembered color. We wait for white. The wind sweeps the dust from our eyes, brushes the canvas of our skin clean and raw. We are receptive to the redemption of snow. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I happen to not only know Daina, but I actually do know the fantastic publisher that was responsible for making sure that her wonderful, beautiful book came to be. And I brought him here today to join us as well. So make sure you go to Lancaster Poetry Online and make sure that you check out when the festival is going to be happening, and go to irishgpress.com and make sure that you get a copy of Traces. But also stay sitting tight, because we're going to get to hear from Lee Hinton, who is not only the publisher, but he's also an incredible poet in his own right, and he's coming up next.
This first poem is called Epidemic. I wrote it for my grandmother, who was a single mom before the term was even thought about. Each morning, Grandmom awakened, fed oak slabs to a passive stove. Heat, breakfast, their surviving family. At the kitchen table, she trusted King James, belief in his God and this ravenous influenza, a life with 2 fewer sons. Each belief burned away in a fever, each night full of reaching for tiny hands. Each night full of reaching for tiny hands, each belief burned away in a fever, a life with 2 fewer sons. In this God and his ravenous influenza, belief. At the kitchen table, she trusted King James, the surviving family. Breakfast, heat. Fed oak slabs to a passive stove. Each morning, Grandmom awakened.
Now, you enjoyed his poetry, but Lee Hinton is the first person to tell you that as much as he loves to write, well, actually, I've been told that the 3 pillars of life are baseball, jazz, and poetry, which he is an aficionado expert at commentating on all of those. Lee Hinton's, well, I'm not going to say his strongest suit, but the one that has always impressed me the most is the timeless, selfless work that he does for other writers. So we're going to talk to him about both his work and his incredible contributions to the literary community right now. Welcome to Culture in Maine.
Thank you.
Mr. Hinton. I feel like I should use my special accent because I'm in the presence of literary royalty right now.
I wouldn't say that I'm the royalty at all, but thank you.
What you are is the founder, director, head, publisher for Irish G Press, and now iGiraffe, which is the chapbook division. Now, what made you decide to start doing a chapbook division after exclusively publishing full-length collections and books for several years?
Well, I wanted to publish a little bit more than I had been, and I wanted to publish a little bit more local, and also maybe people who haven't had books. This next poem is called 47th in Baltimore. It gets its title from where I lived senior year in college. Apartment 11 dances out the door for trick-or-treat, singing Handel's Hallelujah in Spanish. Apartment 5 marvels at the hearts and flowers engraved on toilet paper, gentleness on tiny corners. Number 3 prays for prayers 3 times a day while lying on her back. Number 6 envies the harmony of duets above. Apartment 9 is tired of being empty. Apartment 10 kneels and erases the last night's dark red from the carpet, then from the walls. The laundry room on the first floor spins and spins and spins in blue. Number 2 carries 5 bags from 3 liquor stores up 4 steps. Apartment 4 is on the roof, looking down. Apartment 8 is on the street, looking up. Number 7 fills the building with bread. And at midnight, apartment 1 sits by the window, still waits for her ghost to come home. So I've always been writing poetry since I was probably 16.
Wow.
And like a lot of poets, I wrote and then put it away, wrote, put it away.
Right.
Someone would ask me to see something, and I had a rule. I would never show them anything unless they asked 3 times, because I thought they were just being polite.
Right. They have to be really committed.
Yeah.
You have to know they really want it.
And then I would show it to them. I get a couple things published. I had a few things in college, and then a few things in the 70s and 80s, but I didn't really take it that seriously in terms of committing myself to putting my work out to the public. Right. So what I did was, after a while, I started thinking, well, you're getting up there in age, and if you're going to keep some of this stuff together and it's going to be there for anyone to look at, not that necessarily is the best work in the history of the world, but if it's going to be something that gets passed on to someone else, right, nieces, nephews, then maybe it should be in a book. At that point, I had the financial wherewithal to come up with a book, and I knew friends who would help me in the whole process of putting it together. Right. So my first book came out in 2004.
And that one was?
Waiting for Brion.
Oh.
And it did well. People seemed to accept it, seemed to think I was pretty decent. And I liked the feeling. I like the feeling of actually reading and having my work together. Then I thought, wouldn't this be a great feeling for someone else to have? And there are lots and lots of local poets who I think are very, very good. This next poem is called Again We Speak in Tongues. I've forgotten the humidity of the old languages. New books have dried and gone out of print. Nouns like breast and mouth escape down a receding road, searching for fluid grammar. Some evenings I remember the syntax of moisture and melody, thrust and thirst, the sound of silk floating toward a bedroom floor, your sigh running sticky into the fibers of clean, fertile sheets. Last night I dreamed in French, realized I don't know how to translate your kiss, even if I had a reason to try. For the most perfect thing, let's say love, it's a combination of the physicalness of love.
Necessary.
There's also an intellectual part of love.
Okay.
There's also that emotional part, but there's also the spiritual part. And those four pillars also apply to most of the other things that I like too. The jazz, baseball, poetry.
So true. Now, what makes you drawn to someone in particular? Because even you run one of the longest running local performance venues in the area as well, the Lancaster Poetry Exchange, which meets every fourth Wednesday at the Lancaster Barnes & Noble, which is out on Fruitville Pike. So that's every fourth Wednesday at 7 o'clock that people can come out, and there's always a wonderful feature. And then there's also an open mic where people can perform and share their work. So between selecting artists for the Lancaster Poetry Exchange, selecting artists that you want to read and immerse yourself in, now selecting artists that you want to publish, what is it that makes someone really appeal to you, that really draws you to them and makes you want to make them part of your learning experience?
Some of it, the first thing is usually personality. I like poets who are humble. So if there's a certain humility in their poetry, that gets my attention, in their manner. I've been to lots of open readings, you've been there, and there are some people who walk up and they act as if they're God's gift to poetry. They're the reincarnation of T.S. Eliot or Langston Hughes or something.
Don't we all wish?
But those who come up, read their pieces, let the piece speak for itself, that impresses me first. But then I'm also listening for something a little bit different than I might hear. Something you've heard 10 other poets, and this 11th poet says something a little bit different in a little bit different way. But also the reading part of it, if I get to read it, maybe there's something that's done on the page that's different. I do a lot of writing, and I read more than I listen. So many people would consider me pretty traditional, but what's on the page may or may not be traditional. I've never written a sonnet, but I may write some things in forms. But you may also have a poem. I may also have a poem where there's words that I leave on the page but cross out, or I may use parentheses much more than someone else, or braces, all sorts of things. So if I see something on the page that's a little bit different, that kind of gets my attention too. This next poem I wrote for my father is called Our Ballpark. This is the place where my father educated us, an open-air school of tutelage and transformation. This is where we first learned to count to 3, then later to calculate the angle of a line drive bouncing off the left field wall. We studied the geometry and appreciated the ballet of third to second to first, a triple play. This moving canvas of color was our art school. He gave us lessons on impressionistic blue skies and white lines, the realism of brown dirt and green grass, and the tangible abstraction of red, white, and blue waving beyond the outfield wall. We committed to memory his catechism of morality, faith and opportunity, fairness and hard work. We learned that if we are still playing, there is still hope. But what we came to understand most is that sometimes for your team, for your family, a sacrifice is the most important play of the game. Yes, maybe most poets go through that process. You write about yourself. You don't know anything, so if you're 16, all you know is yourself.
Exactly.
And you're writing about yourself and how usually it ends up how your heart was broken or something that way.
Of course.
But you move past all of that and you write about other people. Sometimes they're people you know, sometimes they're people you don't know well. They're images that you see on television. And in this new book, there's a poem about Joe Frazier.
Cool.
And Jeff Rath and I were talking about Muhammad Ali, and we started then thinking how Joe Frazier's life would be different if it weren't for Muhammad Ali.
Oh, so true.
And then we focused on their first meeting, and we both ended up writing poems about it, and my poem ended up being in this next book. So I agree with you. You have to write about the rest of the world, not just you. The world will go on without you, and it did before you got here. It will after you leave. And you can write all about yourself as much as you want to, but if you really want to write something that may last a little bit longer than you, then it should probably be about what connects all of us. And this last poem is called Breath, and there's an epigraph by Lewis Carroll. I try to believe in as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Now that it's lit, we can't stop this candle from burning cinnamon thick into our night. We can't tell the wax where to flow. What do our wings imagine first in this cell of honey? Fragile together in this moment, we slow the flicker, desire the impossible, this first kiss and act of faith. When something happens, 9/11, we went to poets to ask them, well, what do we think? What do we feel? We wanted something to tell us right at that time. So we couldn't wait for a movie producer to sit down and create a movie. We didn't ask for someone to go out and paint a painting, which can be moving, can tell its own story. It seems to be the poets we go to we ask them, what do we feel? What does this mean? So right after 9/11, the one art you could get about 9/11 was poetry.
So true.
You can dress her up real nice, but you can't take her out. Well, you never hear her coming, even if you got your ear to the ground. She got a strong right hand, she can't say no. She starts drinking in Texas, doesn't stop until Mexico. She's an imposter, incognito. She's counterfeit for sure. She's undercover, under you. Well, she's poster girl pretty with a sailor's mouth. You can take her from the country, but you can't take the country out. Well, she's 100 miles per hour down a 45. Yeah, you better shoot to kill, 'cause only one is coming back alive. She's an imposter, incognito. She's counterfeit for sure. She's undercover, under you. Well, she's a killer. Yes, it's true. She got her sights set on you. She's undercover. Undercover. Under you. Under you. Under you. Under you. On the corner with a megaphone. Lock up the children, better leave them at home. Get down on your knees, better pray for your life, cause the world's coming to an end. Yeah, the world's coming to an end. Well, there's an old man, he's playing chess in the park. He said he had a vision, but his vision was dark. Don't pay your tax, better do what you want, cause the world's coming to an end. Yeah, the world's coming to an end. We cannot handle devastation. We prove this time and time again. I hope it's just my imagination, or is this the beginning of the end? Young boy, and he's staring at the sun. Got a bottle of poison, and he's talking in tongues, holding up a sign saying, love the one you're with, cause the world's coming to an end. Yeah, the world's coming to an end. Yeah, the world coming to an end. The world coming to an end. We cannot handle devastation. We prove this time and time again. I hope it's just my imagination, or is this the beginning of the end? Oh. The beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. Thank you.
I am here with local music aficionado and iconic York area performer, the incomparable A.D. Chandler, who is also the new T-Pain, master of the megaphone.
A-Pain.
That's your new, I'm
A-Pain.
completely calling you A-Pain.
That's good.
That is going to be your new publicity thing.
I'll take it.
Now, A-Pain, you have a brand new CD that just came out. Tell me the magical process behind the new CD and then the end result, how you're feeling about it and how people are responding now that it's finally out there in the world.
All 17 of them, I'll tell you exactly how they respond to it. Yeah, they loved it. It's truthfully, I got a good friend. I go through the story every time, but I got a good friend who's doing very well for himself out in California.
We like those friends.
Yeah. And he's got a good studio and knows what he's doing. And this is my second time out there with him, so I went out there.
So you actually got to go to the whole West Coast.
Oh, I did it the right way. No, but yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah, I got lucky. I have a friend out there, and he's like, "Oh, let me do it." So I did that, the first album out there, and then of course he's like, "Hey, let's do the second one out there." So last August, 2012, I went out, and it took me about a year up till now to get it done. So, but we went out. It was basically kind of white stripe-ish. It was a drummer, that's him. He's the producer, and me, and we just kind of laid everything down and in a week, and then I left, and he had session players come in and fill up everything else, and him too, because he plays like everything. So, but I'm literally like everything. This guy's pretty amazing. But his name's Al Scrow, by the way.
Does he play the sitar?
All right. I win. Well, I wouldn't.
We're not ruling it out.
Right,
We're not ruling it out.
Yeah, he
it's
might.
possible.
I just never seen it yet, and I haven't written my
next album.
Sitar album yet.
Next album, your world instrument inspired hip hop album.
D-Pain.
That'd be awesome.
D-Pain, I'll say, instead of A-Pain. D-Pain's even better. I think I like that better.
Nice.
We'll go with D-Pain for now. Anyways, but he did a really great job. I mean, he always does. And was it magical? No, it was a lot of work. It was fun. It was very sweaty in the middle of August in a place with no AC. But that makes it makes it right. But it makes you sweat and makes you work, and I think it definitely is a good thing.
Now that's an interesting phrase that you use. Was it a magical experience where the music came down? Oh, no, it wasn't.
Absolutely not. No, never is.
Which is music more for you? Is it more the magic, or is it more this is the work that you do?
The work. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, you sit around with your guitar, man, and but I mean, I do sit around with a guitar, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of pressure. I'm a dinosaur around here anymore, so it's hard, I thought the first album was pretty good, and to like try to keep up and make it something better the next time is always, weird, and I think we did it, it's and the weird thing, that's what I was trying to get to, is it's called Tall Tales. And all the songs that I brought to the table this time is kind of weird, is that, like, really there was none that were for real. Like, none of it was, like, based on, Tall Tales. That's, it's called Tall Tales by A.D. Chandler, and it kind of looks like a book, and it's, you open it up, and it's got the words like a fairy tale, the big, so cool. the big crazy first capital letter in the end, and it's it's Tall Tales. That's what it is. There are a bunch of songs that aren't really for real, they're right. they came from experiences, but not mine, I guess.
Right. Well, I had my very first poetry instructor who was awesome. She said to me, there are two kinds of truths. There's literal truth based on exactly the facts of what happened, and then there's poetic truth, which is you're conveying the truth of the emotion. And sometimes, so that people can get the emotion, you might have to tweak the facts a little bit,
just like
so that they can understand and really feel what you were feeling.
Absolutely.
But you've got to give the people what they can relate to in a way that it paints that picture, that they can really see and feel what happened. And frankly, if all we did was write about ourselves, you got to run out of material eventually. You need to be able to branch out a little bit.
How many times can a woman dump you? You know what I mean?
And how many good songs can you get out of a woman dumping you without mixing it up a little bit?
Right. And then how many songs can you write about, oh, everything is great, I'm making lots of money and everything's perfect.
Nothing
you can't.
More boring.
Exactly.
Nothing
and that's like the hardest to write about. Actually, I'd like to try to write a good song that's happy and positive, and I'm like, everything's perfect, and
that's harder to do than people think.
Absolutely.
You really need that good angst and pain and misery to get really inspired.
That's exactly the truth.
Well, now, is the reason why your CD is book inspired because you actually are an author yourself as well?
Well, no.
That helped give you the idea?
But no.
I mean, you are, yes. You have a children's book in the works, actually.
You're right. But it's funny, though, it rhymes. So it's more of a poety kind of music-y book in a weird way. Exactly, But I do have a, it's in the works. It's been in the works for 27 years or something like that. But it's still in the works. I mean,
it's a grown kid's work now.
Exactly right.
It's halfway to adult novel.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's about bullying, and two wrongs don't make a right. It's called Edwin P. Snollygoster, the Boy with Bad Posture, and it's just about a boy that goes through school and gets bullied, and well, I'll stop and let hopefully we'll get it done in another 27 years. Right, exactly, and then maybe your great-grandchildren can read it.
Nice. Now, one of the things that you mentioned earlier was about this is a young person's game, the music, that you feel like a dinosaur in, and you are by no means a dinosaur chronologically, but I mean, like in ice skating, you're old at like 18.
Exactly.
So I guess it's all about the industry.
Right.
Now, I know York, many people have said that the local market is more accepting of good music, regardless of, whether it has a slick LA-based package. But have you found that it's challenging continuing to go out there, continuing to be playing out as you've matured?
Oh, absolutely. It gets harder and harder. I feel like, not to be whatever, I feel like, I kind of wore out my welcome around here. I probably should have gotten out more and whatnot. But that's no saying or whatever. It's what it is. That's what happens. Right. But yeah, it can be hard, and now I have a 4-year-old boy too, so that makes life a lot harder. Which is, happier, but harder
right.
just to try to keep doing something that you actually love, and then also raise a boy that you loved. It's a hard one to actually. And then to think about trying to go away for a couple weeks is
those long
it bugs
distance.
Me,
road
yeah,
tours.
I don't want to go there, but yet I do, but I don't, but I do, but I don't, but I do, but I don't. And yeah.
So do you see yourself eventually transitioning into less music and other forms of creative expression? Like, what comes next for you now as these changes are happening?
I'd like to think music will be, a big part of it. But I love all, when you get writer's block and you stop writing, I'll go and try to act like a painter for a day or two, and paint something, or I'll always do something. I love writing skits for things. I used to be in a 3-man musical comedy act. Excuse me.
What?
I've done a lot of weird, I love the arts, just like everybody. It's, you try to do a little bit of everything, and I feel like I feel my songwriting is the strongest. That's why I try to put so much time into it. But at the same time, it is slowing down a little bit. I don't have much more time to sit around and write songs as much as I do. I still am, but it's just not as open as it used to be. Again, I accept it, but yeah, it's I gotta do so. It's funny. I was like, well, if I can't play music, then I'm gonna write a book. What's harder? It's just about, it's just
right. Yeah, a 4-minute song or a 400-page novel.
Well, no, but even trying to make money off of them both are very hard. So it's just like, I don't have that. Well, I'd either do, if I can't make music, then I'll be a banker. I don't have that. I have, well, if I can't do that, I'll be an artist. If I can't do that, I'll be an author. If I can't do that, I'll be a mime. It's always got to be something, yeah, exactly. It's, there we go. She was technically in the box there, but I've always wanted to do something creative, and I won't stop. I think Helena said it earlier, it's in your blood. You just really can't. Well, I'm going to stop now and, go work a full-time job and just be happy. I'd still have a guitar in my bedroom, and trying to write some kind of a song or something.
Well, now, when did you get started? What was the road leading up to this point for you like?
Well, I don't know. It's boring story, same old thing. I broke my leg when I was like 15 or 16 skateboarding, and my father played guitar, and it was a musician. My brothers, just, they're more closet musicians. They just like to play guitar and stay in there, But and I'm laying on the bed with a pretty bad, break, and he hands me a guitar and said, "Here, you ain't got nothing better to do." That's how it started, basically. And I just laid in bed, and he told me, and that's what it was, is he told me that I was learning quick. Oh, you're a quick learner. I learned a couple chords, and that just struck me. I was like, ooh. And I got
good at something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yay.
And it was, an acceptance or something, and I was, ooh. So next thing you know, I just jetted off, and that was all I would do. And that's all I've done since.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you agreed to come and do it here.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you guys asked me. I'm sorry I couldn't get here earlier, and I thank you.
No, this was amazing. And I am hugely a Megaphone fan now. I'm looking forward to the hip hop album.
It's coming.
So now, where can people track you down and find you, where they can learn more and they can enjoy more of the amazing
music? You Google
music?
me. I'm worth a Google.
You are totally worth a Google.
No. Honestly, you can get come see me live. I have CDs for sale, or CD Baby, iTunes. Again, the whole realm. Once you sign up for this thing called CD Baby, they put you in every, digital aspect of you. So if you, you can find me, adchandler.com. Google it again. You will find something. Hopefully it's good and the music, but other than that,
It's awesome.
Yeah,
well, thank you, adchandler.com.
Well, thank you. That's
/
my last name. It is, right.
Hashtag ADChandler.
There we go.
Instead of Mr. Mr.'s been replaced with the hashtag.
Good. I'm into that.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
Deal.
Awesome. This one's for Hudson.
You'll start off in the shallow, wind up over your head, scared of what might be under your bed. You'll fall down, but I won't let go of your hand. You'll give your heart to someone and they'll throw it away. Chase all your dreams until they lead you astray. You'll fall down, I won't let go of your hand. When you ain't got a shoulder to lean on, and you ain't got a leg to stand, well, you just keep going, 'cause I won't let go of your hand. You'll fall down, 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 but I won't let go of your hand. I won't let go of your hand. I won't let go of your hand. I won't let go of your hand.
Now, one of my absolute favorite photos of myself in the entire world was taken by the photographer that is joining us on the show today. His name is John Stumpy, and I don't just love him because he took a really good picture of me and managed to make me look good, but because he makes pretty much anything that he sees through his lens look miraculously transformed. I think of probably all the photographers that I have gotten to see. And I mean, I absolutely love photography. I love the idea of capturing memories. But there really is a difference between a fine art photographer and a candid photographer or a portrait photographer. And I don't think I even really understood that until I was going through your portfolio. And I was like, these are paintings in their composition and their balance and their light and their shape in a totally different way than, even a really great photo like at a wedding or a really great photo, at the family reunion where you capture, the happiness and everybody smiling at the camera and cheese, but it's not the same as what you do. So what made you decide you were going to go into the fine art aspect of photography as opposed to
basically stuff? When I look at stuff, I definitely see it differently. I like to look, when I look through my lens, I like to go through, and when I see a certain person smile or a certain moment that's happening, that's when I like to actually capture that moment when those people don't know that's going on, because I feel that makes for the best picture.
Okay, so because the picture that I get all the compliments on that people saw of me, I had no idea you were taking a photograph of me. So that you do that a lot. You actually will just snap pictures of people when they're not even aware that you're looking at them.
Exactly. I'll put it on the continuous, and I'll just take at least maybe 15 or 20 pictures while somebody is talking or they're, having their moment, and that way I can go ahead and pick through and pick that great, expression that they have and make that a special moment for them.
So you're a fan of the high-speed digital, right? That's
yes.
what you work in. Nice. No film?
The film that we do is basically digital. So everything that's within there, I love Photoshop. So basically, it's really nice that you can put a photograph in there, and when you find that certain picture that you have, it's really nice that you can do stuff with it and change a little bit of the lighting and stuff like that with Photoshop. But as far as that, they usually turned out pretty good.
So now, do you feel like, because we've had several artists that have come on the show that were very graphic. They worked with computers. A lot of things that, previously we used to think of as that was the technical stuff. The artists are over here, and then the tech guys are over here.
Right.
So you're now working in both fields. How do you deal with all the technology, but still keep it feeling creative and warm and genuine, and not, all these little boxes and programs? It doesn't make it colder for you?
No. There is sometimes that I'll take a photo and I'll bring it into Photoshop, and I will go too far with it that it will distort the picture or make it not exactly what I want. So basically, it's real nice that once after it goes through and I can see it, it's nice to have that digital part aspect of it that that I can do those type of things with it.
So what's your favorite thing to photograph?
My favorite thing to photograph is, like you said, the people that don't know that I am photographing them. So.
I love that. Absolutely. Now, you do a lot of wonderful work with nature shots, too. Like, I guess that's always makes me curious, because I'm the world's worst photographer. I freely admit it. I can take a beautiful shot and find the weird, crazy angle that just makes it look like somebody was drunk with the camera.
Right.
What is it that makes a shot sort of leap out to you? Because I've also noticed that in a lot of your photographs, you have an unusual angle. You're not usually face on. You're not necessarily straightforward. You find these quirky angles, but with you, it looks beautifully balanced and composed. Whereas, I'm taking it and it looks completely crazy and oh, she tripped while she was taking the picture again. That's too bad.
Well, I actually try to take it kind of like an outer body experience. If I'm this level, I try to picture myself down at a different level and how that would look, when you're actually taking that shot. So if I see a bridge or if I see a building that I like, yes, most people just take it from their point that they're at. But if you look at it from a different spot, it can totally change the whole aspect of the picture.
Wow. Okay. So we're having out-of-body photographic experiences. How did you learn and develop all of these different techniques? How long have you been doing this, and how did you get into it?
I went to school for it a little bit, in college here in York for a little bit. After that, basically just started using a point and shoot. Had a lot of people that were, giving me compliments on those photos. That was way before Photoshop or me having my, very nice DSL camera. So basically what happened was, with taking that, I started, going farther into it this last 2 years, and basically just fell in love with it. And, with doing the part of it of loving it is made it so much more better for me to do.
Wow. So now because I do know you specialize in doing some rather unconventional, different styles of photo shoots with people. What made you decide to branch out and start doing things like boudoir photo sessions or performer and artist photo sessions, aside from just working with more traditional subjects?
Just the fact of that, I don't like to keep myself in one area. That's part of me being a Gemini. So I definitely like going to the whole...
That explains it.
Yeah, goes to the whole different angles and the different avenues that I like to take with the photography. So I really don't have one thing that I really like to shoot. Basically, I will take my camera out and I will go out and, you know, whatever I find that catches my eye, that's usually what I go ahead and shoot.
Amazing. So now you're all over York. All of a sudden, you just had an incredible show First Friday at the Shop at Newgrounds that got rave reviews, and you have a huge show coming up at the Parliament in March. Yes? Tell me about this. What's going on with this Parliament show?
The Parliament show is going to be the whole month of March. That they feature, you know, different artists and different photographers, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity of that. That's actually where I started with the York Arts, was pretty much at the Parliament. Got invited to their poetry readings and fell in love with that, and basically kept on going from there.
That is so cool. So now where else can people find JS photography?
They can find me on Facebook. I will have a website coming up here soon, within the next month or two. But as far as that, right now, just really on Facebook.
Awesome. So find you on Facebook, and everybody needs to come and visit the Parliament, which is a great gallery space and performance space in the emergent Royal Square neighborhood anyway, so they should be coming and checking you out. But they definitely need to come in that photography and get those photo shoots, because you will book private photo shoots working with individuals that just want to be beautifully photographed.
I do a range of all kinds of stuff. I take, you know, product photos that I also do web design. So when I usually have a client for that, I will offer to take the photography for them for whatever they have going on. To, like you said, the boudoir, you know, adult filming, to doing kids' birthday parties, to really whatever. So with enjoying the fact of loving my camera, I love really shooting anything.
That is awesome. Well, we cannot wait to see you at the Parliament and on Facebook. And we are so blessed that we got to have John Stumpy visit us today on Culture in Maine. Thank you for joining us once again on the corner of Culture in Maine. We're so glad you joined us, and we want to hear from you. So find us on Facebook, Culture in Maine. Make sure to click like. Send us an email with your comments or suggestions. Let us know what you liked, didn't like, or what you'd like to see on cultureinmaine@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, where you can get all the latest updates about what's coming up on your favorite shows or when new videos or photos are posted. So make sure to follow us on Twitter @cultureinmaine. You can also log on to WRCT.tv, and you can find our show website with all of our updates and latest information. You can order DVDs there, and you can find out what's going on with your upcoming shows and your favorite past guests. Please be good to each other, keep enjoying art, and thank you for celebrating the very best of York County and South Central Pennsylvania's art scene. I'm your host, Carla Christopher. Have a great night.
I'm really excited about this. I love the atmosphere, and I just want to know more about it.
I see it evolving, changing, growing, and I like it.
It's fleeting. Once it happens, once a song comes out, once a poem comes out, it'll never come out the same.
Some of the Culture in Maine is documenting what's going on in a way that will have that lasting staying power.
It just breeds healthy growth. It's a necessity. It's a necessity, yes.